What's happening, everybody? We've got 3 key injuries to SEC players now done for the season, and the latest on Kirby Smart and Shovegate 2024. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to Everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, we got to start off with one of the stories that ridiculous story that came out from over the weekend. And if you missed this, this is Shovegate 2024 is what I'm calling it. Kirby Smart at the center of a viral controversy after video showed him late in the game last Saturday against Mississippi State, shoving quarterback Michael Van Buren out of the way during the game. Now, Kirby commented on the incident following the game, insisting he was unaware what had happened in the moment. Says he was just trying to go talk to his defensive coordinator, Glenn Schumann. Now, on Monday, at his weekly press conference, Kirby Smart further commented on the matter. He told reporters that as soon as he realized what had happened, he reached out to Mississippi State head coach Jeff Lebby and Michael Van Buren, insisting he had no ill will towards the Bulldogs quarterback. Here was Kirby.
Kirby, if you had a chance to go back and look at the incident in the Mississippi State game, the shoving, have you had a chance to call Coach Lebby and perhaps even Van Buren himself?
Yeah, absolutely, I have, and I'm glad you brought that up because after you guys said that in the press conference, I went back and watched it, and didn't even realize that I had run into him. But I reached out to Lebby that night and talked to him, and he said the kid was great. And then yesterday I talked to Mike and told him, I had no intentions or ill will towards him at all. It was, if you've ever been on the sideline in a game, it's pandemonium. It's really pandemonium when you're trying to change personnel and you only got 3 to 4 seconds to do it. And we were bad off in a bad personnel grouping against empty that we actually had messed up the week before. And so I was trying to get to Schumann to get that changed. But I reached out to the kid. He was great. He's a really good player. He's going to be a good player in this league, and he played better as the game went on against us.
So no flags were thrown on the play, and Van Buren commented after the game that he was mostly unaware of what had happened, and both parties were simply locked into the game, didn't really realize what was going on. Now, some on social media were angry at Kirby Smart for his actions. A lot of Georgia fans saying, come on, get over it. This is ridiculous. But Paul Finebaum, he saw the sideline incident on Saturday. He was asked about it on McElroy and Kublik in the morning on Monday. And he said, the one thing I would like to hear from Kirby Smart, I know he said he didn't remember it. This is where the mistake has been by Kirby Smart. Someone around Kirby needed to grab him in the aftermath and say, before you say a word, let's talk about this and figure it out, because what you did was clearly wrong. The right thing to do here was say you were sorry. But obviously Kirby addressed it on Monday after Paul made those comments. Now, to make this whole situation even more ridiculous, Greg Sankey has released a statement on Shovegate 2024. Sankey acknowledged in a statement Monday that Kirby Smart should have been penalized on the field for making contact with an opposing player. Here was Greg Sankey's statement. He said, coaches cannot make contact with an opposing player. This play should have resulted in enforcement of an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. As Kirby discussed in his press conference today, he has appropriately reached out to Jeff Lebby and Michael Van Buren. I'm confident the contact was not intentional, and the clear expectation is this conduct will not happen again. So sounds like no punishment coming from the league office. And again, it's a much ado about nothing, but hopefully this thus concludes the drama of Shovegate 2024. But Kirby and Michael Van Buren getting over it. I think we all should as well. So yeah, look, some ridiculous stories in the world of the SEC throughout this year. That will probably be up there among the most ridiculous. All right, let's get to some serious news, some major SEC names that are going to miss the rest of the season. Let's start over at Florida, as quarterback Graham Mertz been playing some of his best football the last couple of weeks, improving that completion percentage, one of the highest in the country. And on Monday, it was announced he will miss the rest of the year with an ACL tear. Mertz writing in a statement to fans, "Thank you for 2 incredible years in Gainesville, Florida, fans. Unfortunately, I suffered a torn ACL against Tennessee. I will miss the remainder of the season. During my recovery, I'll remain a part of the program, do whatever I can in meeting rooms, from the sideline to help my teammates win. I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support during this time." So with Graham Mertz out, it is officially the DJ Lagway era now in Gainesville. And, look, if you're a Tennessee fan, or rather a Florida fan, I think you should be excited about the chance here for Lagway to show what he can do. He was top quarterback recruit for a reason and special talent. And he has thrown for 765 yards, 5 touchdowns this year, does have 4 interceptions. But you kind of get your chance to see now what Lagway can do and kind of unleash the beast. But they will play Kentucky this coming weekend. That game will be in Gainesville, 7:45 Eastern kickoff Saturday night on the SEC network. Let the DJ Lagway era begin officially in Gainesville. All right, over on the Tennessee side of things, their star linebacker Keenan Pili, news came out, he suffered a torn ACL against Florida, and he will miss the remainder of the season. Josh Heupel saying Monday that he was heartbroken for Pili, and obviously the BYU transfer missed most of last season as well, and it's a big blow to a Tennessee defense that has been much improved this year. He was their leading tackler this season, and like we said, one of the top units in the country so far this year in terms of points allowed and just overall much improved unit. But here's what Josh Heupel had to say about Keenan Pili. He said, "I said it after the game, there's nobody that represents Tennessee better than him. He's a great leader. Will continue to be that inside of our building. Just heartbroken for him and his family. A guy that does absolutely everything right and is special, a special player, but a special person too. He has a great future." So tough blow there for Keenan Pili, linebacker for Tennessee. How about over at Texas? It was announced they will be without sophomore safety Derek Williams for the rest of the season. Steve Sarkisian announcing on Monday that Williams will undergo surgery for a lower body injury he sustained in the Cotton Bowl on Saturday against the Oklahoma Sooners. Williams suffered it covering a kickoff to start the second half. He tried to hobble to the sideline before going down off the field. And it was an injury-marked season already for the 6'2", 195-pounder. He was the number 4 safety in the class of 2023. Missed 3 games with a hamstring injury this year, but ultimately played only 98 snaps on defense this year, but made an impact. He had an interception in the Michigan game, had a forced fumble and fumble recovery this past week against Oklahoma. So he was having an impact, and now Texas will have to lean on some younger guys to fill in that role for the loss of safety Derek Williams on that on the defensive side of the ball. But I did see some folks saying that, Jelani McDonald, number 25, he came in and played pretty well throughout the second half. So maybe that is going to be the guy who will have to step up. But just hate to hear injuries like that. And again, shout out to those 3 guys who are lost for the rest of the season. All right, some other injury news to get to. We'll stick with Texas. Wide receiver Isaiah Bond, Steve Sarkisian saying Monday that he is day-to-day with an ankle injury he sustained and then aggravated in Saturday's win over Oklahoma. First injury report, the Longhorns release on Wednesday will be the next update for Bond's status against number 5 Georgia coming to town this weekend. Now on Monday, Bond's mother tweeted out saying it was a minor injury. So that should be good news for Texas if Isaiah Bond is good to go and ready to play this week. One other note, Isaiah Bond's mother on Twitter also put out in that same tweet, Red River rivalry greater than Iron Bowl. Sorry. My first Red River rivalry overall was an amazing experience. Other than my son's injury, the fair was huge. The rivalry was real. And let's just say I'm glad it was not a shootout. Maybe a comment we'll have to address later on. Remember, he was former Alabama wide receiver, played in the Iron Bowl. She says Red River rivalry bigger or better than the Iron Bowl. That was a big contention of debate in the offseason. If you remember Sam Acho and Cole Kublik kind of making some comments. So We'll revisit that down the road, but certainly interesting comments there. I just wonder if the roles were reversed, right? If he had started at Texas and then transferred to Alabama and played in Iron Bowl, would she be singing Iron Bowl better than Red River? Come on. All right, other news and notes. Over at Georgia, running back Branson Robinson went down hard during the second quarter of Saturday's game against Mississippi State, left the game with a right knee injury, and he's going to miss some time. Kirby Smart announcing Monday that Robinson has an MCL injury. Definitely will be out this week against Texas, and we'll see how long he is out. So Kirby Smart saying forecasting it out is impossible because the MCL is one of the ones that has to heal itself. So sound like he's going to be a couple of weeks there. And then over at Arkansas, Sam Pittman met with reporters in Fayetteville Monday, gave an update on his starting quarterback, Taylen Green, who exited Arkansas's win over Tennessee with an injury. And his status is up in the air, but Sam Pittman expressing some confidence, saying, we're hopeful that Taylen will be ready to go. I feel like he will, but we'll have to wait and see a little bit more. I'll probably know a little bit more on Wednesday, but we're hoping he'll be ready to play, and we think he will be able to. Now, if Green can't go, Arkansas will turn to Malachi Singleton, who relieved Green against Tennessee and performed well, led them on the game-winning touchdown drive with under 2 minutes to go. So Malachi Singleton could be the guy to face off against LSU for Arkansas this weekend, but we'll certainly watch that throughout the week with Taylen Green. And one more injury note here over at Florida. Montrell Johnson, running back, had an early exit due to an undisclosed injury in the game against Tennessee last week. His injury got a little bit overshadowed because obviously Graham Mertz, that was the other big one. But Billy Napier saying Monday, we don't anticipate Montrell Johnson's injury to be a long-term issue. Again, what does that mean? Does it mean he's out this week? Does it mean he's out a couple weeks? Keep an eye on that one for Florida. But Johnson is Florida's leading rusher with 70 carries for 373 yards, 4 touchdowns over 6 games. Against Tennessee, Florida turned to Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson in his absence. Trayon Webb was Florida's backup running back entering the season, but he had been banged up as well. So there you have it. A lot of news happening on the injury front, and again, wish all those guys the best and get back healthy and ready to go soon. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we got some more news and notes going on around the conference. That's coming your way in just a sec. But first, I want to remind you guys about our friends over at Roy. And this is for SEC fans. It is time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. And so far this season, we've pulled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds will go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. And the best part, it is risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. And this week, we are supporting Diego Pavia of Vanderbilt. We pitched in $100 and would love for you guys to join us. Even $10 makes a difference. Show Diego Pavia the love and keep him connected to Vanderbilt or whatever your favorite player is at your favorite school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Just your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. You can win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you are entered right there. Already on Roy, any contribution to any athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players and change the game. All right, continue on here, Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out each and every day here on Locked On SEC. Tomorrow's show, we'll talk with our buddy John Neighbors, host of Locked On Razorbacks. We'll get the latest on him. Expectations, exceeding expectations so far with the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Bobby Petrino hire, Jaquindon Jackson, all the different pieces that Arkansas has had. We're going to talk all about that tomorrow with John Neighbors. You don't want to miss that. All right, let's dive back into it as we continue going on around the conference, and we jump over to Auburn as Hugh Freeze met with reporters on Monday to preview their big matchup against Mizzou this week. And in his prepared opening statement, Freeze giving a bit of a backhanded compliment to Coach Eli Drinkwitz. He credited Drinkwitz as well as Mark Stoops and Clark Lee for the programs they have built despite, quote, lesser rosters in the SEC. Here's what Freeze said. He said, I know everybody has their rankings of coaches, and it's based on, to me, the better talent you have, the better coach you are. To me, some of the better coaching jobs are done with those with lesser rosters in recruiting. I think you look at people like Eli and Stoops and heck, Clark Lee now, I think are doing incredible jobs at their respective programs with the kids that they've had. Freeze did note later that Drinkwitz is one of his closest friends in the conference and they speak often, but I got to think Eli Drinkwitz ready to take a shot back at Hugh Freeze for that comment. I mean, look, Eli Drinkwitz actually recruited really well. Luther Burden was a 5-star. Like, they've got some big-time recruits on Missouri's roster. It's not like they are doing this with a bunch of 2-stars. But, man, Hugh Freeze just continues to kind of like, and look, if he's winning, nobody says two things about it. When you're having a tough season like he's having, every little thing you say publicly is magnified. 1 minute, they're like, you're throwing your players under the bus. Now you're taking shots at Eli Drinkwitz. Mizzou coming off a blowout win on the road against UMass last week. Auburn had their bye week. They lost 3 straight games, SEC games entering this weekend's matchup. Kickoff at 11 a.m. Central on Saturday morning. Over at Tennessee, they're gearing up for the 3rd Saturday in October, and always a fun matchup, always a big rivalry. And the staff at Tennessee wants that crowd to be hyped. So the school announced an orange out for the game against Alabama this weekend. It's the same thing the team did the last time Alabama was in town back 2 years ago. And the Vols won that game 52-49. And last weekend against Florida, the Vols checkered Neyland. Now fans just simply have to wear orange. So she'll look cool on TV. It'll be that 2:30 slot, 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern slot on ABC. So SEC rivals used to be, this was like that CBS afternoon game. Now it's the ABC afternoon game. Should be a good one. Over at LSU, they have been fined after their rushing of the field in their big win over Ole Miss this week for a first offense. The SEC fines the team $100,000. Second offense, $250,000. So this is LSU's second offense. Remember, they rushed the field when they beat Alabama 2 years ago. So they will pay $250,000. And yeah, whatever. Who cares? It's just funny. I mean, like, the SEC has to do this because they have these rules in place, but none of the students care. And most of these schools, when they pull off big upsets, the administration doesn't care either. But I also wonder, is it becoming a little bit too much? Are we rushing the field a little too much? Like, this used to be reserved. Look, Vanderbilt rushing the field when they beat Alabama, sure. Absolutely. Alabama was the #1 team in the country, and Vandy was 0-60 against top-ranked teams lifetime. Yes, go ahead and rush the field. But talk to most LSU people. They think of Ole Miss not really as a rival, like little brother. Like, we should beat you. We always beat you. So LSU rushing the field after that one was a little weird. But yeah, you got to wonder, like, is it kind of on the students, right? They want to, it's a cool thing. They see it happen in other schools. Oh, man, that'd be cool. Let's go rush the field. Yeah, I just think there's some programs that you're LSU. You won multiple championships. I don't see Alabama rushing the field. They don't rush the field. They're held to a higher standard. Georgia. So just food for thought there. Speaking of Brian Kelly and LSU, Kelly speaking with the media on Monday, talking about facing Taylen Green perhaps at quarterback at Arkansas. Brian Kelly saying he's long, speed, as fast as anybody we'll see. He's got escapability. I think he throws it better than the quarterback from South Carolina. So this is a guy that is a real threat. Man, don't throw strays at Lenora Sellers. But Kelly mentioned Sellers is similarly a dual threat. But I guess saying Taylen Green is a better passer. But yeah, LSU has faced some running quarterbacks already this year with Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. Jackson Dart had a lot of QB runs in the second half this past week for Ole Miss. So see what LSU can do if they can defend at Taylen Green. It'll be a tough night game, Razorback Stadium, Saturday night. Battle for the Golden Boot on the line. Over at Ole Miss, they are going to lose a defensive back, Key Lawrence, no longer with the team. He announced his decision to redshirt the remainder of the season and enter the transfer portal, said in a post on X that he did it so he can play a complete year. He only appeared in a couple of games so far for Ole Miss this year, and the redshirt option was still there for him. He's transferred around. He ends his Ole Miss tenure with 1 tackle, be the 4th school he will play for coming up next. He began his career at Tennessee, played in 10 games as a freshman in 2020, transferred to Oklahoma, spent 3 seasons there before transferring to Ole Miss this past off season. Over to Alabama, they picked up a JUCO prospect for their class of 2025, Cavante Henry, a defensive lineman out of Cerritos College, announced Monday he slipped his commitment from Mississippi State to Alabama. So Cavante Henry heading to Alabama from the state of California. Began his college career at Oklahoma back in 2022, redshirted in Norman, and then moved back home to California. He's a Los Angeles native, so we'll see what he looks like at Alabama next year. And speaking of Alabama, Greg McElroy on his podcast giving his thoughts on Alabama's win over South Carolina. Greg McElroy saying, look, Alabama made some of the dumbest mistakes I think I've ever seen. For as well coached and for as good as this team has traditionally been, that was about as bad as it gets at the end of the first half and then at the end of game situation. This team right now is lacking situational awareness, which is really a problem, and it needs to be addressed and get addressed rather quickly. McElroy said just an inexcusably bad and dumb game that was played by the Crimson Tide. Just dumb, flat out dumb, and it needs to get addressed really quickly because that almost cost them. One other note here over at the University of Texas. Austin is hosting a ton this weekend with the Texas, Georgia, and the F1 race going on. ESPN set to host a ton of experiences throughout the weekend. Of course, College Game Day is going to be there on Saturday. They're going to have live Sports Center hits all day Friday. Good Morning America will have some people out there on Friday morning. Elle Duncan will do her show out there. Also saw Grammy-nominated artist Quavo will be on site for various college football and F1 integrations. And fans can check out some of the F1 car displays around the University of Texas ahead of the Circuit of the Americas F1 race. So if you're a Georgia fan, you're heading to Austin, hopefully you got your hotel already. I was looking at some of the prices. You're looking at about $500 to $600 a night for a hotel in Austin this coming weekend. So hopefully you got that sewed up. And speaking of Texas, Paul Finebaum asked by Greg McElroy and Kublik on Monday about the playoff and who he has in his playoff. And Paul Finebaum saying that Texas and Georgia, he still has locks to make the playoff. He said, after Texas, the only one I think I would feel really comfortable saying is automatic is Georgia. And even though I know Georgia's path is complicated, I still feel like that club is capable. He said, then you get into the logjam of Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and every week will help determine how many SEC teams will get in. He said, if Alabama wins this weekend against Tennessee and they're favored, I think they're in a tremendously good position. But that's why this game was always so important, especially if Alabama had a loss going into it. So a lot going to be determined this weekend. Some teams can maybe take themselves completely out of the playoff race this weekend. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And I want to remind you guys, this episode presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And look, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is over at FanDuel.com. And, of course, some of the great SEC Week 8 betting lines up there at FanDuel. You got Auburn at Mizzou. Mizzou is a 5.5-point home favorite. South Carolina at Oklahoma. OU a 2.5-point home favorite. Bama a 2.5-point road favorite at Tennessee. A&M a 14.5-point road favorite at Mississippi State. LSU 2.5-point road favorite at Arkansas. And Georgia at Texas. Texas a 3.5-point home favorite. Kentucky at Florida. Florida a 1.5-point home favorite. It's all there at FanDuel.com. $200 bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go check them out. FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we got to get to some of the SEC Players of the Week, as announced by the conference this past weekend. Tons of great football being played out there, and some tremendous honors for some of the players out there. So let's dive into it. As your offensive player of the week, according to the SEC, was Garrett Nussmeier over at LSU, who had a fantastic finish to the game against Ole Miss this past weekend. So Garrett Nussmeier, your offensive player of the week. Defensive player of the week, it was a tie with Whit Weeks, the LSU linebacker, had something like 18 tackles or something. Anthony Hill, the linebacker for Texas, he was outstanding as well. So those are your two defensive players of the week. Special teams was Vanderbilt kicker Brock Taylor. He continues to, he's made this list before. Offensive lineman of the week was Kelvin Banks over at Texas, opening up those holes for Trey Wisner. Defensive lineman of the week, James Pierce at Tennessee, and Braden Swinson of LSU. He had a couple of sacks. And your freshman of the week, Boo Carter at Tennessee in the secondary. And then quarterback Michael Van Buren of Mississippi State. Yeah, they lost by 10 at Georgia, but they put up 31 points. Impressive performance from the young kid, who is a true freshman, by the way, Michael Van Buren. So big game for him. Let's see what he does moving forward. And one other note, Garrett Nussmeier was named the Senior Bowl Offensive Player of the Week. So congrats to all those gentlemen out there for winning SEC Player of the Week honors. Well-deserved, and some really strong performances from a lot of people around the conference. See what they do this coming week. So that is just about going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Did want to mention this before we get out of here. I saw this on social media last night. Diego Pavia, who's having a fantastic year for Vanderbilt, he tweeted out about a week ago, I think it was right after the upset win of Alabama. He tweeted out his agent's number and said, hey, reach out, if you want to do anything, make anything happen, or hit up my agent. So Breaking T, which is a pretty well-known t-shirt company out there, has been making a lot of sports-themed t-shirts for years and years and years. I've ordered from them in the past. They tweeted out last night, we did the thing, and tagged at Diego Pavia 02 on Twitter and said, order now, breakingt.com/turnt. And they made a special turnt, T-U-R-N-T, t-shirts for Diego Pavia. And they put the link in there. And again, they tagged Diego Pavia and even included his Twitter account and all that. Well, Diego Pavia last night at 8 o'clock tweeted, this is not me. We have not worked out a deal. Do not order. And so kind of interesting, because this Breaking T is a legit company. It's not like there's some fly-by-night. You know how you see those accounts on Twitter sometimes where it's like, oh, order this t-shirt. It's like, co.te, it's some random website. It's not legit. Well, Breaking T is a legit website. Well, even our buddy Josh Pate tweeted and said, this account is not associated with Diego Pavia. Don't spend a penny on these shirts. Well, Breaking T responded with a statement that said, well, this is awkward. These shirts were approved and are licensed by Vanderbilt and yourself, meaning Diego Pavia, and in parentheses put via One Team Partners. So you would assume One Team Partners is a company that is working with Diego Pavia on his NIL. Breaking T went on to say, and you're receiving a royalty on all sales. Please DM us if you'd like anything further. Thanks. So this has kind of sparked a debate. Like, okay, Diego Pavia probably, has a team that's handling some stuff for him. They probably agreed to this deal with Breaking T and agreed, okay, royalties on all these sales of this shirt will go to Diego Pavia and put money in his pocket. But Diego Pavia is saying, I didn't agree to this. So this is one of those weird things where we'll see what the truth is and how it comes out. But it sounds like this is a situation where you hired a company or hired a person to represent you. They agreed to a deal, and whether you signed off on it or not, they're using your name, image, and likeness, and you're going to get money for it. But Diego Pavia is saying, I didn't agree to this. But again, if you hired a company to agree to it and they agreed to it on your behalf, then they have free reign to do it. And they even said with Vanderbilt. So it sounds like, they said these are licensed by Vanderbilt and your company via one team partners. So just something fascinating in this day and age of NIL. And again, I'm not siding with Breaking Tea. I'm not siding with Diego Pavia. I don't know who's right. We're going to find out in the coming weeks, who's right, wrong here. But a very interesting topic of the business side of name, image, and likeness stuff. And, you hire a company that's representing you. They agree to something, whether you agree to it or not. If they're representing you and you signed off with them, they could sign off on stuff. And, maybe you don't even have to, maybe they don't even have to get your official agreement on it because you already put ink to paper to sign with them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but just going to be fascinating to see the repercussions of one of these kind of deals. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Come on back tomorrow. Check us out. John Neighbors will talk all things Arkansas with us tomorrow on the show. Come on back and see us.